Is anyone, where are you right now?
Vegas. I'm here at the hotel adjacent to the West Coast Classics Convention Center.
Man, you look so much better than last night. Not that you looked bad last night, but when we were
I
running a
was
little couple tests on the software last night, you looked a little different.
I was tired. I probably fell asleep like within 5 minutes of hanging up.
Yeah, you have eyes now. Last night when I was talking to you, you were just kind of like,
I mean, I was laying in bed when you said like, "Do you want to do this test?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure."
I'm excited to have every guest on, but it's pretty cool to have Matt O'Keefe on. I think he'll be here in 1 minute.
Yeah. The longest conversation I've ever had with him was 2 weeks ago at the Granite Games, and it was nice to get to know him a little better. So this should be fun.
Are you, what are you doing at the West Coast Classic? What's your gig?
Um, just uh, just writing everything for the competition. Anything that needs to be written is my responsibility, and then
For who? For Morning Chalk Up or for CrossFit or for who?
oh, no, for Loud and Live, for the company that's putting on the competition. I will also write for Morning Chalk Up some articles every day recapping the competition,
No
but
shit.
that's
So
not.
Matt O'Keefe is your boss this weekend?
I don't really report to him, but the media director for Loud and Live, yeah.
Of course you don't report to him. He's like way, he's at the top of the food chain. But I didn't know that. Holy shit.
Yeah, I've worked a lot of events for Loud and Live in different capacities in the past couple of years.
Who have you worked for in the CrossFit ecosystem? We know CrossFit, we know Morning Chalk Up, we know Loud and Live. Who else? We know you've worked with Tommy and Sean.
Yeah, Tommy and Sean, I've been on Bill and Chase's podcast. I've done a couple other guest appearances on some podcasts, but also Dubai CrossFit Championship, Strength and Depth, Filthy 150, and then a few I've worked for remotely, like French Throwdown and the Asia CrossFit Championships 2 years ago, Fittest in Cape Town, the one year they had it. A lot of times it's just like a consulting role. I'm just providing them information about the athletes and the events and what I think is going to happen. I do that here too, just so like hopefully we catch the most important moments on video and photography. Um, I often work with the MCs just to like update them on what's going on with the race for all the different spots that are on the line. In this case, there's like obviously someone's going to win, someone's going to be on the cut line for the games. There's last chance qualifier spots. So there's a lot going on in every division. So I just try to point them in the right direction so they
Uh-oh.
can inform the crowd.
Uh-oh, you cut out. Brian. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I don't know. The internet was searching.
Could you hear me?
No, nothing.
Oh, damn. Damn. In my head, I'm the biggest thing in CrossFit, and I've only worked for one company. I'm going to have to recalibrate. Maybe you're the biggest thing in CrossFit. Listen to all those people you've worked for. I mean, I was flattered that Travis Mayer asked me to do behind the scenes with him, and Jason Hopper was trying to court me, I think, to do some video or photography work. But in my head, I'm way too big for that. Just a one person follow.
Well, don't worry too much because all those different people I've worked for, the total amount of money I've made is probably less than you made in 1 month.
Oh, good.
So,
Oh, good. Money is the absolute metric.
but I mean, I acknowledge to myself when I started doing this that, um, I was doing it because I wanted to get more opportunities for the athletes, and I thought that I had something to offer just because of how much I am able to retain information about the sport. I can't do that with everything, but for some reason I just remember stuff about CrossFit really well, and it becomes valuable. And so, if I have a value, then that's great. But early on, I had to prove my value.
Yes, me too. Hey, do you think you like CrossFit so much because I have two theories that people like you and I like it or liked it or we entered it, one because we do it, but also two that there are so many places to contribute because it's having such enormous, I don't want to say enormous growth. Maybe that is true. But why do you like to be not only a practitioner but participate in the games? I mean, you're not a games athlete.
No, but I've done the Open every year since 2014, and I like try my best on those workouts. I kind of taper for that event. I think it's just cool to be able to. I mean, I obviously have a competitive background. Played sports all the way through college, and that's just like an instinct in me to want to compete and want to test myself. This is a cool realm to do that in, but it's just as important to me, the methodology and the box. That's why I work at a gym, at a CrossFit gym, and
How
I
tall
love
are you?
5'10",
And how much do you weigh?
165,
And how old are you?
33.
Are you getting better, you think, at CrossFit?
Yeah, I mean, I had by far my best open performance this year, and then I made the quarterfinals, and even though I was finished near the bottom of the men in the quarterfinals who participated, I still basically like PR'd in every workout in some way or another. So
Do you have
yeah,
any? Do you have any? Did you ever think that when you first started CrossFit, oh, I could train and go to the games?
no, I never. I knew I was too weak.
In 2008, the media director was Tony Budding, and all through 2007, he said that, hey, we're going to give you a spot in the games in the women competition. We're going to let you compete in the women's competition.
Yeah.
And I was so excited for a while. And then as we got closer, I don't know what happened. I just kind of like lost interest. But also then I ended up making Every Second Counts, the first documentary on CrossFit, and I didn't do it. But that in hindsight, I'm thinking, oh, shit, I should have done that. What a funny thing and great like element
Well,
that would have been.
I do and have done a lot of the regional and games workouts with the women's weights because that's, I can't move the men's weights. So, and they're obviously great tests, and they're way fitter than me still.
Matt just texted us and said, sorry for the delay coming.
And here he is.
I'm going to try saying that to my wife tonight.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Mr.
Oh,
Matt
yeah.
O'Keefe.
Matt, I got a really important question for you.
What's that?
How bummed are you that the West Coast Classic and U.S. Open are on the same weekend?
That's a tough one to swallow. Any golf fans out there know this is like one of the two biggest weekends of the year to watch golf. So I am trust me, I got it all on record. So I'm gonna try not to pay attention this weekend to the scoreboard and watch it when I get home.
Okay, well, I will tell you nothing then. But I do want to know, do you have a pick for the U.S. Open?
Yeah, I think Jordan Spieth, maybe John Rahm. It's going to be a Bombers event because so I think Jordan Spieth will be in the mix because he's a grinder. But I think it's Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, Tony Finau. All those guys who hit it really far are going to be
Have you been to
successful.
that course?
I've played it a couple times. Yeah,
Damn, that's awesome. It's in California,
It's fun.
Sevan.
Yeah.
Brian, that you before the show started, you said, "Can I ask the first question?" And I said, "Yeah." And you asked the first three questions, and I bet you, I don't even know what if he wouldn't have mentioned golf, I wouldn't even know what sports you're talking about. You just lost half our listeners; they just turned off. Matt, you're gonna have to take your shirt off or something to get them back.
Sevan, you're in uniform. I like this. This is perfect. You wore the right shirt this morning. Are you drinking? What are we drinking today?
Just sparkling water.
Oh, nice. Wait, you changed the set. Where are you?
I'm in my office because my kids have a early morning skateboarding session, and I know that they were going to wake up and be just crazy. So I took this into my office. This is where I do the important podcasts.
Here we go. I mean, we meet. It's been a while. How you been?
I'm great. You know Brian, huh? I'm always surprised when people know Brian. I just figure a guy with 6 followers on Instagram, no one could possibly know him. And then you guys are just already shooting shit.
By the way, you want to hear that funny story? So when you started doing the podcast with Matt and Josh, and you always had that like empty black box down the bottom right, and I was like, well, who's going to show up there? I was always like, I wonder if Dave's just going to pop in there, and be like the fourth guest now. Like, I told Matt, I was like, you guys need a guy that like, is a plethora of useless knowledge. And but, no offense, Brian.
He meant that as a compliment, Brian.
That's
just
a
so you
com-
know.
that's a
That
compliment.
actually is a compliment. I wish someone would say that about me.
So I was like, you need Brian Friend. Like that, I told Matt, I'm like, you need to have Brian Friend on there and like feeding you guys things. And then all of a sudden you guys pop. So I feel like I put this together.
Oh, really? So really, you're serious? Like you thought of Brian as the fourth guest?
100%. I told Matt that, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Brian and I met on Instagram, and
that's how every great relationship starts, right there, right?
I guess. And I just invite, and I go, hey, why don't you come out and just do a podcast with us at one of the regionals? And he was there, and I was like, holy shit, this guy's great. I can make fun of him as much as I want, and he doesn't get offended, and he fucking knows everything. His brain is full of stuff, so he can say stuff. My stuff is empty, so just ridiculous questions pop in. So we're a great duo. I'm an empty cup. He's a full cup.
You know what's amazing is, Brian, I know those drapes behind you, so we should have just done this together, sitting next to each other. I mean, I'm in a conference room probably like 2 floors below him right now, so.
He asked, he said, should we be in the same room? And I got concerned just because we hadn't done that before, so I was concerned about echo or something like that.
Oh, that's a good point.
I'm actually sorry. I'm going to pause 1 second, and then I'm going to turn. It has a feature to do echo cancellation. I just turned it on yours, Matt.
Oh, cool.
It's trippy. You're one of those people that I think I know, but I really don't know. I mean, I've seen you, 100 times. We always say hi. We would shake hands. I mean, I haven't seen you in a long time, but when I was working for CrossFit, I would see you everywhere. And so there was always this kind of, there's a lot of people like that in our ecosystem. I'm sure with you too. You see them, 20 times a year, but you never got a chance to really talk to them besides, hi, how are you? How are the kids? And so it's fun, right? That we don't know each other, but now we get to talk, and I get to pick your brain on some things. And you're a relationship expert. And I love relationship experts.
Well, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. But yeah, I mean, we have a good history. I mean, we've spent a lot of time together at the games, regionals, whatever, open announcements, sort of on the road. I think you probably have spent more time with me in some of my more stressful moments in my life. So it's than maybe anyone. Sevan always has this knack for like being there right at the right moment, where it's like, whether it's, in a really cool way. And I think history tells that, where, you've got great shots of, I remember being with Dan at that regional, and it's like, Dan come off the floor. And I love that you have that shot in history, because you were the only one that sort of had the balls to ask the question at the hardest time. And it's funny, like, I work with a lot of the athletes, and you always had this unique position with them, where it was like you would, be there at their hardest moments. And, I would sort of witness it. Even with Matt, I'd be like, you okay? And he'd be like, yeah, it's Sevan. It's so it's
Oh, I got a warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. But yeah, I'm excited to talk. This is great. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm enjoying, listening to you guys on a weekly basis.
Thank you. The athletes were always incredibly welcoming to me, and they would even give me feedback. I would get feedback from people like Josh or Noah or Travis Mayer, and I got the same vibe from Katrin and from Annie and from Cara, and a bunch of others. I apologize if I leave out any names, but even in their hardest moments, for some reason, I think somehow I lightened the mood for them. Or I could say something to them where they would come out of their head for a second, so that they could deal with me rather than their own shit. You know what I mean? And I would try to keep it real with them, but like even Josh in his hardest moments when I was there would come out of his head. A few times Matt did scare me. Tia terrified me. I struggled with, because when they stay in their head and you approach them, you start getting really insecure that you're bugging them, right? And so it's my job to get in there and get those real moments, but also, you want to try to respect them. And I hear Brian talk about that a lot, like about respecting them. Like, hey, if they don't make eye contact with me first, or if they don't wave me over, I want to make sure I give them space. So it's a really delicate, as you know, being right there by their side. It's a delicate time they're not only physically exhausted, they're emotionally taxed, and they're intellectually at fucking hyper speed.
I don't think anybody's accused you of being delicate. So.
Well, that's the paradox. That's kind of the paradox, right? Like, if you're going to show up there, you better show up there. Yeah. If you're going to show up there.
That's it's funny though, because I have the backside of that. And never once have I had a scenario where it was like, F Sevan, like get him away from me. Like never. I mean, that's not pumping tire like that. Never. And there's plenty of that goes on where it's like, God, get that guy away. Like, never had. And I mean, I think that's earned because there's also like the backside of like what comes out through how build the story through media. And so I think people, you've built, that takes time to build that respect.
And I believe in those guys. I believe in almost everyone. I have hope for everyone, you know? And I bet you do too. I bet you that's a similar trait we have. I really, really believe in the individual. Like and I'm so from the checker at the local market to just anyone, to just the guy walking down the street. Like if a homeless guy asks me for money, and even if I say no, I'll say, "Hey, how are you?" I want to look at them, and I'm really interested in people, and I believe in them. Like I'm like, man, this is me. Like I'm looking at a version of me. We're all just
Still though, like and both of you are in this role where you guys are there close to the athletes at their most vulnerable times potentially. And is that something that you feel like you've had to learn how to like massage those situations, or is it something that comes naturally from you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can chime in first on that. My perspective, I have a lot of life perspective that I think has transferred really well to what I do now. It's sort of I've been climbing a mountain my whole life, and like I landed here at the right time for me too, right? Like to be able to be good at that with people and have great perspective. I mean, I'm 10 years sober, for instance, and I don't know if people know that, but that's given me an incredible amount of great perspective on life, and given me a lot of hope. I mean, if a guy like me could be where I am today, anybody can be anywhere really. And that sounds very cliche and, sounds like BS, but it's true. Like I was in a gutter, and it's, to have any position in anything and be, you know, have people just trust you, I think is probably the most after coming out of a scenario like that, is incredible. So I have the same, like I don't care who it is. Like I try probably too hard sometimes with people because I think everybody has value and everybody has something to give. And I really pride myself on trying to draw that out.
what
Again,
what
that's like, sounds like that shiny, happy BS, but like I truly do. Like I don't care. Like I mean, like you were just describing, Sevan, feel identical. Like there's just, doesn't matter if it's somebody checking me out at a Whole Foods or a CVS or somebody I work with. Everybody to me is got some great value as a human being, and I want to see that side of it.
tell us what you do. What is
I,
your job? What is your
yeah,
vocation, Matt O'Keefe?
that's a great question. I mean, I have a technical role, which is running a sports marketing agency, and what that encompasses is a lot. I mean, we own events, obviously, Wadapalooza, West Coast Classic, Granite Games, Madrid. We manage athletes, which I don't look at it that way, but we'll get further into that. And we help people with their professional life on the endorsement side, basically, in their professional life as an athlete. And we do marketing work for brands. So, we represent brands in their marketing efforts, either digitally or physical, from an activation perspective.
And when you say you manage athletes, is it strictly in the CrossFit space?
It is, yeah. I've been like, I've had opportunity outside, and we've done some unique work. For instance, we work with a climber, Corey Richards. You may even know Corey. And then
Well, now I'm gonna immediately, when this is over, I'm gonna reach out to the producer of the show and get him on the podcast.
he is
Write his name down,
he is he
or
is
try to.
he is awesome,
Okay.
awesome. Yeah, and he's got a great story. And but we've worked with, yeah. I mean, but yeah, specifically right now it's just CrossFitters. And it's funny, like I think in that role, a lot of people, look at this, as an evolution opportunity into other sports. I don't. It's taught me to want to run deeper in this. It's such a cool space. I love the people, and I love the opportunity that continues to rise in it. And it's there's two sides to being an agent. There's that contractual side in traditional sports, and the marketing side. And I love the marketing side. I have no interest in negotiating an NBA or NFL or NHL contract. That's for others. I really love the marketing side. That's what we do. So I think we would always maybe like look at, or I would look at opportunity with anyone with that. But today it's all CrossFitters, and I love it.
What does that mean? What's marketing? What's the definition of marketing?
Anything like you could say from like being looking at appearance opportunities, being giving addressing a business or a crowd, to endorsement, to your own brand, so anything. It's just how they operate their business unit, non-contractual, so non-sport related, well, sport related, but non, in CrossFit it would be they compete on a floor for a prize. On the other side is the business and marketing. We do uniquely help them all the best we can, from like having a support system in their weekend. But
That's what happened to you earlier,
that
Brian.
with Matt, that was kind of my,
You
that
broke
was
up
my
for a
role.
second. You broke up for just a second. What about Matt? If you're going to drop Matt's name, we got to get the whole sentence. You broke up just for a second.
I said that like sort of my role with Matt was extended, right? Like I was, but so we do more than just that business side. We try to support athletes in having a support system in the games week or whatever. But yeah, it's purely a business scenario where we're trying to help them develop their brands and find the right fits for them, either with partners or on their own.
So someone DMs your athlete. Sorry, Brian. Someone DMs your athlete and says, "Hey, we have a comb. We want you to, sell or put on your Instagram." And and you do represent Matt, right? Just to be clear.
I do, yeah.
And then Matt would just take a screenshot of that and send it to you, and you'd reach out to them, and you'd be like, "Hey, why did you?" And then you would start negotiating them. Why do you think your comb works well with Matt? He doesn't even comb his hair, and then they explain, and you guys talk it out.
That's a good example too, right? Because, well, first of all, some of them we have access to their DMs, and we're linked to their email, on like a message click on their social, so we would directly receive it. But yeah, like that's a good example, because I think one of the things that's been really cool about the CrossFit space on that side, and has evolved in a great way, is like getting away from like the have to take deals with companies to make hay, to like being able to be selective with brands that you believe in. So yeah, it is like that whole process is the fun part. It's like, does this fit? And guys like Matt being able to be like very selective about who they work with and who they want to now invest in too, right? Like there's even that going on, so it's super fun. But yeah, that's exactly how it would go.
So you've seen the dick pics I've sent Matt? You
Yeah.
have access to his DM? You must be impressed. No wonder you came on the show.
I set myself up for that. I knew that was coming. I was like, wait, here we go. Here comes the question about what happens in these DMs. So I would say that, it's appalling what happens in some of these DMs. So
God, I wish something appalling would happen in my DMs. God damn it.
Yeah.
So, how old are you?
That's a really personal question.
You don't have to answer it.
No, I'm joking. I'm 44. I'm 44.
And so at 34 is the year I found CrossFit. And
me
at
too.
30, wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. And tell me about getting sober. Why did you get? And you have 4 kids?
No, 2.
2 kids.
2.
And
yeah.
how old's your oldest kid?
15.
Okay, and one boy and one girl.
Yeah, my boy will be 13 in a few weeks, and my girl is 15.
And are you still married?
I am. Yep.
Holy shit.
For 20 years, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Matt O'Keefe has crossed the 51-yard line of what makes raising successful kids, having a successful relationship with your wife. It's kind of really that easy.
It is. I mean, God, we could talk about that for hours. It's a fun challenge. I mean, a 15-year-old girl, and I hope my daughter listens to this because she'll smile and laugh, but boy, that's a new world. Like, good Lord, you're not like, I feel like, you have a child and you're not ready. You're never ready for anything. That's like, I have clients and friends, like Pat Fowler just had a baby, and it's like Cole Sager just had a baby, Annie. It's like, you figure it out. But that comes again on the tail end, especially with a high school girl. It's like, I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know if I'm gonna. It's crazy, the stuff. I mean, I feel for her too. It's like what's going on in her head. Like I can't imagine. I remember being that age, being insecure, and as a guy, like I can't imagine what she goes through. It's like I want to like wrap her bubble wrap, but I also want to kill her sometimes.
You're an amazing example. I would presume you're an amazing father because you're an amazing example. And it's interesting. So that means you quit drinking when your daughter was 5. Your oldest child was 5. Why?
Mhm.
Why did you quit drinking?
Yeah, I mean, they're a piece of it. My family, and I did it for me. Like, what you learn, it's hard to know this the day that you like think sobriety is a path for you. But if you're not doing it for yourself, because you can't fix everything else or like support everything else and make everything else right around you unless you really make yourself right. I did learn to do it because it was the right thing for me personally, mentally, and physically. I was just like, um, not. I mean,
Did you
you
get a
probably
DUI?
no, you probably would have saw me and been like, I just like a guy that parties, and it was all consuming, right? It just like was, there was no off switch. It wasn't a daily thing, but it was like, when it happened, it was like, I don't even know how it ended up stopping. It just stopped because I couldn't stand up anymore, right? So, I had a young
I w-
kid and I had two young kids, and it was like, I had this amazing wife that, was just putting up with and now real quiet about what she was putting up with, right? And I don't know, I was lucky that the light bulb went off. I think I just had this moment where it was like, what am I doing to these people? Like, these beautiful kids, my wife, like, it kind of like, I think the real moment was, it dawned on me what my wife was putting up with, just Jesus, wow. I mean, the fact that I'm still allowed to stay at my house is crazy right now. This is cool. Like, I need to fix this. But I think the proudest piece, it's very emotional every year, even for my wife, she's like very, like, it's like that day. Funny enough, like my sobriety date is the day after her birthday. So you can imagine what that day of her birthday was like. It didn't go well, right? So but she she's emotional and celebrates it in a great way. She's like very proud of it. And I am most because of my kids. Like they have no concept from that me, like they don't remember it and they're never gonna see it. So it's like my why, they like it's mom has a glass of wine every once in a while and they're like they're probably like dad doesn't do that, mom. It's like that's right, it's
is
cool.
your wife English? Is your wife English?
She her
She a
heritage is
foreigner?
no
Oh,
no
she
no no
doesn't.
no
She
no
doesn't have a
no
funny accent. She doesn't sound smarter than she is.
she's very bright, very way brighter than me. She's a partner at a law firm, and she
Well, then she
I
should get an English accent. That's like a automatic, like in Scrabble, a double.
she would like that, I
What is
think.
that? Like a when you get double the points.
Wait, so
If you
Matt,
use a
you just
go ahead.
decided that day, this is it, and I'm done.
Well, here, so I like had made a bet, funny enough, on a January 1 bet. I was gonna take the first 3 months, which is, by the way, this is like the snowball of like, when in sobriety, it's like, I was gonna take a few months off because it was like, a test. It's like, yeah, right. Like, the shit was hitting the fan. But I made it, I went on a ski trip with my wife and I was like, just like white knuckling. She's like, just fucking drink. Who cares, And it was a bad night. That was her birthday, and I woke up the next morning and I was like, I'm done. Like this was all that was just an identification thing. It was like I can't. I'm not good at this. I need help.
So, so you were trying to quit that day on
I
a
was trying.
bet, and
I
it
was
was
trying to
so.
quit that month. That like I was trying to like maintain a status. I had like not drank since January 1st, right? And I failed.
Did you ever go to AA?
Oh yeah, every day for 5 years, like literally every day. It was a routine thing, and it was like to get through the struggle and like find people that thought like I was and how they coped and like fixed their life or put it together, and then it was just like good people that I wanted to be around, and with a lot of my travel and how busy I've got. It's a great global network. So I do occasionally find places in Europe or whatever, it's like, it's funny. CrossFit helped me a lot. Like it's healing, and it's like, I found a program that I'm going to do some work with Phoenix that's doing a lot of
Great
CrossFit
people.
for
Great
recovery.
people. Yep.
And it's, I was very fortunate, and there's a lot of people in recovery in CrossFit, right? So there's a nice network, but like I've gotten away from it, which isn't the best idea as a sober human being, but Matt's very public about his sobriety, so we've had each other to lean on with that too. But yeah, I used to go every day.
The communities are so similar. You can go anywhere around the world and go to a meeting, you'll be welcome. You can go anywhere around the world and go to a box, welcome.
Except
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say I feel like there's everybody kind of has a way that they look at the CrossFit. I mean, there's so many angles on it, and it does so many great things. For me, it's an area that like I'm getting more and more excited about. Honestly, especially I went and worked out at Phoenix last Friday. They've served 10,000 people this year. They're going to serve
Wow.
250,000 people, and we're talking like 48 hours sober people, like doing CrossFit. And I'm like, this is it. Like this, I mean, you guys have all had it. It's like, there's a lot of that. It's like, this is it in CrossFit, right? This is it for me. It was like, oh, I'm in. And I'm, he just got a $50 million donation from somebody. And I'm like,
Whoa.
I get it. Yeah.
Whoa.
Like
The Phoenix program did?
Yeah. They're about to like do some real great work. They've done incredible work, but like now he's going to be able to like really spread his wings the way he wants to. And
what's the guy's name? I've met him before.
Scott Strode.
Yeah. I met him a few times. I went out to see him with Greg. He was fantastic.
Cool kid. I mean, he was like, sticking needles in his arm. He's just like, he's open about it. It's he's incredible. Boston story, like they're right on Meth Mile. It's like they run their 800 by people that are like keeled over. I mean, it's
there's a street called the Meth Mile.
Yeah.
That's like wow.
Yeah, it's you got to check it out. Like I like last
that's a strong name for a street, for a nickname for a street. Damn.
It's kind of crazy that they ended up there of all places that they could end up. It was like it's kind of perfect, but they I mean, dude, I hadn't been in real, like I had been to like they used to do their program out of CrossFit in Back Bay, Reebok Back Bay at the time, and they finally got their own building. I mean, I was floored, but I went last Friday. They have a 7:30 class, and it's there were like 30 people in it doing CrossFit, and like of all walks.
What is it? You're
so
sober
cool.
for 24 hours, and then you get free access to the gym, but you have to be sober for 24 hours.
48.
Okay. Did it used to be 24?
24 is like a that you're looking for 24, like but the they're 48. Maybe it used to be 24. I think 48 is a good idea before you want somebody working out.
Putting a barbell overhead.
Yeah.
My wife and I were both let go from CrossFit on the exact same day, and in a previous life she was a breathing and yoga coach. It was like basically what she was going to do, and she traveled all over the world training, and she got hit by a car crossing a crosswalk, and then the CrossFit thing started taking off, and as she healed she moved over into the CrossFit space. But what's interesting is the day she got let go, there's a CrossFit gym that never closed down during the pandemic, that is the so-called pandemic, that is in our area. And it's like a 50-acre, I'm making that up, rehab. It's a big, gigantic rehab that's about 10 or 11 miles south of us, called Elevate. And the owner knew her because my wife was on the affiliate team for a little while, and the owner had talked to her a bunch, and I guess she had heard that my wife got let go and immediately reached out to her and said, hey, do you want to teach yoga and breathing at our rehab? And so my wife's been doing that, 3 days a week, which is great for my wife because it gets to revisit her old practice. And now she's like full blast back into yoga and back into teaching breathing. And the program is exploding. And that's not a good thing, but it's because it's telling of the times. But basically, I think rehab. I mean, those Phoenix guys are in a tremendous space that the world really, really, really needs right now, right? We know that the average weight gain of people during this last year and a half in the United States is like 26 pounds or something like that.
They only have
And
that
I'm
one
sure
location.
13 of that's from alcohol. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Do they only have one location?
No, they have another location. I think they're in Lake Tahoe also.
Denver.
No, sorry, not Phoenix. Elevate, the one my wife's at.
Yeah.
Were you talking to me or to him, Brian?
I guess both. Yeah.
Oh, don't lie. Who are you talking to?
Oh wow, that was the most Swiss response I've ever heard in my life. Is that your role in this? Massage everybody.
I was thinking about Phoenix. It struck me that
see,
Phoenix might have multiple locations. It seemed like Elevate probably wouldn't. I don't know.
By the way, I've heard of the Elevate program. I would love to go. Like I'm like I mean reinvigorated, charged up. Like that's a purpose thing for me. Like I need to get connected on that. Like to me, like I think. By the way, what you said before, Sevan, is really important. Like I don't think that this is exacerbated people's problems, not created them. So like it's an epidemic. Like it's just a reality. It's a mental disease. Becomes physical through how you engage whatever you're engaging. But I'm telling you that this has just exposed a lot of it, and people need help. And yeah, sitting at home for 18 months was gonna obviously fast forward a lot of people's problems, right? So the reality of it is there's nothing really different today than there was 10 years ago. There's a lot of people that struggle and just don't have a place to go or know there's a better way, and places like Elevator,
Right. It's interesting. So you were drinking a lot, and you knew that drinking and your marriage and your kids didn't mix, and sounds like one of them had to go. And for me, and probably CrossFit was like this, for me, I was smoking cigarettes. I was smoking cloves, like a pack a day, and I found CrossFit at 34. And somewhere in there, in the first 6 months, I was like, oh, these two aren't going together. And I really enjoyed smoking. I really, really like smoking. And I was like, one of these has to go. And then I was like, well, eventually smoking has to go anyway. It's not like anyone who's thinking about smoking, I'm going to tell you something that no one ever tells you. Don't ever do it. And the reason why is for two reasons. One, you have to quit. So why even start something you have to quit? And the second thing is as you get older, it'll haunt you in your brain. What damage did I do? And you never want to give up you never want to give real estate up in your brain. Ever, 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 ever. So
do you think about, like, it's funny, we'll get like dark in the matrix now, but like that, I think of that often. Like that's a thought that I spend time on, which is like, what have I done to myself that I can't reverse that's going to shorten my path, right? I lost my mother this year, 69 years old, and she smoked for 30 years, and she had quit, but she died from a lung disease that was created through all that time smoking, right? And it's like 69. I'm 44. Like that's not a lot of time left. I got a lot to do. I don't want to go. It's like, what have I done? I mean, I've chewed tobacco all my life. It's like, okay, there's some, I don't anymore. But it's like, there's something I did to myself there through that. I'm sure that's probably not going to help me live to be 100. I think about that often.
Yeah, the smoking thing really used to come in my brain a lot. Like, oh shit, how much better would my score have been here? How much permanent damage have I done to my lungs? But what's really crazy about CrossFit and eating right is I feel like more and more those thoughts leave my brain. Like if I used to have them every day and then I had them once a week, now it's just like once a month. But of course they're still there. But I just feel like every time we do a workout, we change all our fluids, we change our oil, we agitate the system, we shake all the, it's like I imagine like what are those things called with all the little holes in them, like a cauldron, not a cauldron, what's the thing you put, a strainer. Yeah, I feel like just every time we do a CrossFit workout, we're shaking the strainer and the bad shit's just falling out. Yeah. And so I think we're good. I mean, I'm not just saying that. I think we're good.
No, you're right. You're right on that. Like, well, as good as you can be, right? Like, there's nothing else. You're every day. That's like the whole AA thing. It's like the only thing you can do is like live in the day, do the next right thing. I've applied that to my health, like, so it's, I feel like, it's funny, like I've always thought of that as like the program they call it, or the fellowship. Man, people should read that book, who sober or not, it's like that thing is it's just life. It's like, okay, so apply that to like eating. I mean, this, you probably spent more time on this than anyone, is like, alcoholism. There's isms all over the place, and the food is in that category and that's probably the biggest epidemic in the world, right? Like people just not know how to eat, or what to eat. But you can help yourself with that, with the same thing with that. It's just, how do you do it? You put like you figure out how to make the next right choice. And by the way, it's like, I'm not perfect. I got to be perfect with alcohol. I promise you that. Nobody wants to see that. But, food and health and wellness, like I just try to work out every day, and I try not to eat like an asshole, It's like,
O'Keefe, I
it's
think
working out all right.
You have a fantastic physique. You're a strong CrossFitter from the numbers I've seen. But do you still ever, like, I see a lot of pictures with your shirt off next to these, like, I mean, like, you're the world's most healthy pony, but I see your shirt off next to these fucking Clydesdales, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I won't even take my shirt off at the local pool. Help me out. How do I quit being so, like, thinking, like, how do I get to that level? How do I get to be like, yeah, whatever, fuck it?
I don't, it's funny.
I needed 2 beers to take my shirt off at the beach. Now,
they've made me feel comfortable in general. It's like, I mean, honestly, you don't want to take your shirt off next to Matt or Tia or Katrin,
no, any
or
of those
these
guys.
I mean, it's like, because I feel like I look all right, but I look really shitty next to those guys. So it's,
yeah, you look great in the mirror at home naked, but
Yeah.
then you take your shirt off next to Matt, and it's like, I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is like this guy's really got his shit together. He's got his head screwed on straight. He'll take his shirt off next to these guys.
Well, the evolution is I keep my shirt on a lot now, because it's like, you know what? I think I've realized what you're realizing is you're probably looking at it and being like, the guy's crazy. What is he doing? Put your shirt on.
No. Actually, no, not at all. Actually, I apologize if it came across like that.
No,
you
it
look
didn't.
great.
Thank
Okay,
you.
you look fantastic. Occasionally, I'll see some stomach muscles in your photos. You're tall. You stand up straight, but still, like, I mean, and you're the kind of guy. You're just like the rest of us CrossFitters. If you walk into a Starbucks, you look around, you're like, shit, I could run a mile, 3 miles before anyone here even gets off their seat. But still, is it a lot? And you're still young. You're only 44. Is it physically? Does it ever get in your head that, holy shit, everyone around me can run a mile carrying me faster than I can run a mile? Like, if you wanted to set a world record, Matt O'Keefe's record mile time, you'd be better off having Matt carry you. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, Jesus. I mean, I'm thousands of miles away from Matt and Josh, and I feel that like that when I'm on the podcast with them.
You know what's funny is that's been like my experience in fitness, and particularly CrossFit, has been a lot with those guys, and particularly Matt. And I tell this story a lot, but basically is that I got really unfit hanging around with really fit people early on, because I was more intent on comparing and racing early. There's a lot of people, their first CrossFit experiences like that, they get competitive, and I would get my ass handed to me in workouts to the point where I would let off the throttle, right? So I was like, working out next to, Matt or guys like Matt, and it'd be like, he'd be like doubling me on a workout, and it'd be like, fuck, I'm just going to just kind of finish and coast it in. And before I knew it, it's funny, I did a workout with Ben Bergeron in Vermont. I'll never forget this. And we were up visiting Matt. It was early on, and he was just like, I was like, dude, I'm in a rut. Like, he's like, you move really slow. And I was like, it was an eye opener. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm trying really hard. He's like, you're moving so slow. He's like, I know what happened is you learned to move slow because you're getting throttled by these guys. He's like, you need to move fast and like push yourself. And it was just like a good check. I remember it all the time when I work out. Like, I literally, like, you're moving slow, Matt. You're moving slow, Matt. Push yourself. Forget that, like, this guy's kicking your ass or like you're kicking this guy's ass. Like it's not about that. It's about kicking your own ass. But yeah, dude, I got like super. I mean, I was fit, but like I got for me, I was going the wrong way, and I'm like, fuck, I'm working out every day. What is going on right now?
You should have told Ben I'm moving slow so I can get more muscle contraction and bigger muscles. You needed to come back.
Oh man,
Matt, can a CrossFitter make $1 million a year? A games athlete, can they make $1 million a year? Non-games athlete, I won't even categorize them. Can a CrossFit athlete, is that a real thing?
yes,
Can a CrossFit athlete make $1 million a year?
yes.
And how do they do that?
Predominantly through endorsement. Yeah. Yeah. I mean that like
give
our
me more
ecos.
things to the code. Like, do they have to be good? Do
Oh,
they have to
sorry.
not be drinkers? Like, what's the? I'm just looking for a big picture. Like for people who I'm not trying to get into the TMZ side of this. I'm trying to get into the generic prototype. Like.
Yeah. So that's like a tough. That there's a formula, but the formula is different per person, right? Because it's like well, Matt and Tia, by the way, they're like incredible brands too. They're like this like accumulation of many factors that allow them to be very successful, on business and athletics, right? But
Do you manage both of them? You manage T also?
yep.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
So there's just like this, but everybody has their formula because there's plenty of incredibly successful business units, we would call them, or brands, individual athlete brands that aren't winning the CrossFit Games. So
Ryan
um,
Fisher, Marcus Philly.
yeah, I don't work with either of them, so I don't know. But
They're killing it.
I think
They're
that
killing it.
I think they're
Yeah.
doing really well from my optics because
Yeah.
they're just smart people that have figured out a path and are well, but they are the answer. That's the answer, right? Is like they're very true to themselves. They have a brand, and
Yes. Okay.
they're relentless, and in their pursuit of what they're interested in, and that's the truth on like I think that's like the foundational formula is just a lot brand alignment or true to you got to be true to your brand first, right? Like, you have to be something what that's true to you. Like I think Matt's done a better job of this than anyone, right? Like I'm biased, but like I will tell you, like Matt did not compromise a speck of anything his entire career and doesn't still today. It was like not putting programming out before he retired, right? Like that wasn't like a business move anywhere along the way. I was like I would just never share any of my shit with anyone. So like I'd be a hypocrite if I did that. He could have made a ton of money doing that his whole career. And he's like, no, that's just like hypocritical. I would never do that. And it's it's that's a big piece of it, but it's there's just like there's a many micro factors, as it's like in the end selling products is going to get you paid, right? It's but staying true to who you are and being like a very true brand and platform is like the answer to it, right?
I
And
think
that's
of
unique
I
to
think of
each of them.
Dave Lipson and Camille. Like they both have very separate markets that they're appealing to, and both of them are very true to who they are. But Dave, as far as I know, also like redefined his own physique and then said, "This is how I did it, and if you want to do it, I'll show you how."
He is an awesome brand. Like I think Dave's brand's really cool. Like and it's not, but it doesn't have to be for everyone. There's like more evergreen approaches. Dave's a very niche approach, but that's a very successful approach. I guarantee you, Dave does really well.
What does that mean? True to who you are.
Yeah, that's cliche as you know what, right? Like I get it.
But I
It
mean
is.
it. It's a sincere question because I think a
Yeah.
lot of people think they're true to who they are, but when I'm like, no, you don't know who you are. You're being true to who you're not.
Well, but I think that for me, I think that the answer to that is that example I gave for Matt is just like, you know, do people have a price tag? Like, so when you're talking about endorsement, it's like, are you doing a deal to do a deal, or are you, doing a deal because you love the brand and, you believe in the product, and it fits really well with your brand. It's like, Matt on his own product side, it wasn't even a question. That's true to yourself. Like you have values, so staying aligned with those. Um, by the way, that's hard, right? Like, and everybody in life has to do things for money to be able to advance in life, right? At some time or another, getting yourself in a position where you don't have to make decisions based on that is amazing. But there's a progression to that, and I've been a part of that since like whatever 2013. Because early on it was like, okay, like how do we make enough money for you guys to be able to do your job, right? But yeah, that's true to yourself. It's just like how can your values align perfectly with everything you do in your life, right? It's the dream. Maybe somebody don't dream. Maybe people don't dream that. I do. I think that's like the easiest way to walk through life is like you get up in the morning and you're like, oh, my job lines up with how I think and how I feel. Great, amazing, right? Like that should make for a very easy day.
I think people also. I saw a great example of this on Instagram the other day. I think the guy's name is Patrick David. He's an Armenian, Iranian guy. Anyway, the thing about being true to who you are, and you just said you use the word, it makes life easy, it makes getting up easy in the morning, is people will start to also resent you and be jealous of you for how, and you won't even know it because you'll be completely oblivious to it. Yeah. And because you're making life look so easy and you're not compromising, and they cannot figure out for the life of them how you're getting ahead. And for those people who are being true to themselves and life is easy, they're not really sure how they do it either. But you also said something in the beginning about yourself that you have a lot of life experiences that help in your current role because it gives you perspective. If you don't have perspective, it's really, really, I would even go as far as to say it's impossible to be yourself. If you have not gone through some really difficult times in your life, and I'm not talking about doing Fran, I'm talking about just for the most cliche one, someone died in your life, or yep. You were homeless, or you didn't have a real gut check, like a real, it's really, really hard ever then to be true to yourself because seeing what you are, who you are, you choose the word, is almost impossible when it's like going skiing. It's like going skiing and on a freezing cold day, and then your balls are sticking your leg. It's as difficult as reaching into your pants and pulling them off your thigh. You just can't because you got too many layers on, and so it's like that. Wow, it's like you just won't.
That was a dark analogy.
A beautiful analogy.
Hey, Matt.
I wish I apologize. It's a bit sexist. I wish I could come up with one for women, but like if you have to make an adjustment, you got layers and layers of clothes on, just sucks. It'll fucking drive you crazy. I don't know what women adjust.
Skiing is that's a rough play on skiing. Listen, that part. One of the funny points to make on. Not funny. The interesting points to make on that is like I'm amazed at people who are successful at younger ages because, and again, maybe my wiring system was just, I'm very comfortable where I'm at today and proud of it. But like, I couldn't figure it out at 30, and again, I was like, I had a bottle in my hand, like I was a hot mess. But my point is like, I see a 30-year-old, like I look at a guy like Will Ahmed from Whoop, and he's 28 years old and he's got a company that's valued at $1 billion too. And it's like at 28 years old, I like could barely wipe my ass on my own, and I'm amazed. I think that's super cool because you're lacking what I think is the makeup of me is just life, right? Like I've been able to experience enough that like, I know that you can't make the same mistakes twice, and you only know what you know, and that's the evolution for me. And like, I feel very comfortable now, but like at 28, he's walking into things, that are crazy. I find that awesome and amazing. I think it takes an extraordinary human being at that age.
Or how are they going to do it? If you're so successful at that age, how are you ever going to find yourself if you haven't found yourself yet? That's also like a holy shit. Like, I mean, you can see this with Matt. I hate to use Matt as an example, but Matt is so successful, and yet he's still tempered enough. This is the most remarkable thing for me about Matt. He's still tempered enough to still be searching for deeper parts of himself. Like, he doesn't walk around like he has that shit figured out. At least I don't get that impression from him. He has room still to know and to learn, to not. You know what I mean? He's open.
Listening
Go
to you
ahead,
guys
bro.
talk about this is reminding me of the Bucket List. Have you watched that movie?
I don't
Was
think
that
I've
with
seen that.
Where
Robin Williams? Or no, Jack
and
Nicholson?
Morgan Freeman, and
Okay.
they meet in late in life. But Morgan Freeman has had a hard life, and he knows who he is. And Jack Nicholson, very successful throughout his life, and he waits till the end of his life basically to start asking those questions, and then finds it out. And I don't think there's everyone's paths can be different, but that's just what
Who
when
are
you
you who are you comparing me to? Morgan Freeman or Jack Nicholson?
You're Morgan Freeman.
I like that.
I
like
think what
that.
he was
Yeah,
when he was asking like a guy about like Will, who's
Yeah.
had so much success so early, has he had the opportunity to ask those hard questions? And it's it doesn't I don't think that you have to do one before the other necessarily, but that just came to mind.
But I would agree too. Like, what problems arise, out of scenarios like that because you've raced to where you are professionally on the personal side, right? Like, there's like everybody's got their shit, right? It's like I look at Matt, and you bring like, I think a lot of people look at me and like, oh, everything comes back to Matt, and it's like, I've spent most of my time with him, and you've just pointed something like Matt's extraordinary. Like he's sober longer than me. He's 12 years younger than me. Incredibly successful in sport and business, right? Like he's another one I look at, and I mean, I learned from him. We learn with each other. We have a great relationship, but like he's an extraordinary human being and very thoughtful. And by the way, like one of the things that I think is most interesting about him, because I'm like there with him and Sammy, because on the emotional and relationship side, life's developing. Like he's been like a cyborg for years because he's been trying to accomplish this like one goal. And it's been super cool to watch him just, be able to step back and be like, wow, I don't know how to do this. You're right. Like I suck at this. And, how he's like building that stuff he built through, pursuing this other goal now into the life. I wish people got to like peel his onion back a little more and see more of him because he's, man, he just like got such great perspective and he's such a smart guy. And I can't call him a kid anymore, but like he's incredible. I learned from him at my age. It's really cool.
I'm excited for them to have kids and watch that.
I mean, super babies.
I just love.
Yeah.
It's fun watching. One of the reasons why we love Matt so much is because we got to watch him compete in what I think, outside of maybe the UFC, the hardest sport in the world, and win it 5 times. And just,
I'd agree with that. By the way,
But then I love seeing. Having a kid is like that too. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, it's like now we're gonna get to watch some other shit.
I gotta ask you, Matt. Do you think it's harder to win the CrossFit Games than it is to win the U.S. Open?
The U.S. Open in golf.
Yeah, man. There's so many golfers.
Yeah, it is a good question. They're very uniquely, incredibly, insanely unrelatable hard, both of them, because it's I can relate to both uniquely because I have competed in golf, tried to qualify for all that stuff, like, and what they do is just insane and precision. It's more, there's a physical component, but there's a lot more skill to it on that side, hitting a golf ball is maniacal, especially out of 5-inch rough. But I think what CrossFitters do is the hardest thing in the world. That's my personal opinion. I don't think there's anybody in this world that chooses harder on a daily basis than a CrossFitter for a profession. I think UFC is pretty damn hard too, and I think they choose like very hard in training. I still don't think, like, I've just watched what Matt and TA and Katrin and these guys have done on a daily basis. It sucks, and be able to get out of bed and do that, like, good on them. Like that's a rough existence to live on that edge to be the best.
It's a horrendous road to toe. It's a horrendous. It is. You know what would be funny to do is to take all the weights. Try to someone calculate all the weight that Matt has moved in the 5 years that it took him to win the games, and then draw a picture of that, like a pile of rocks that's that big, and be like, okay, you have 5 years to move that. And we're not even going to make him compete in the games, and just be like, it must be just like a fucking pile of rocks that's like a mile high. I mean, something that would break someone's soul. They would rather die. Do you know what I mean? Seriously.
It makes me dizzy thinking about that, honestly.
Let's make that poster. That's a great poster for Matt.
Brian's like, wheels are turning right now. He's like, I think I have a number for you.
Nah, I can't.
He
think
has
that
everything
big.
he's had everything he's ever done written down. He could probably, he'd probably love calculating that.
That would be amazing. Who is your first client?
Matt?
Matt is your first client?
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
that's
Keith,
how I
there's
got
a-
in. I wasn't in the business. Like, I got into it because of him.
What?
Tell me about that. How did you meet Matt? And tell me about that. Give me some details on how that happened.
Reader Digest condensed version is
Please.
I owned a clothing company, Redline Gear, which was like a brand, a CrossFit brand at the time. Like, I was a member at a gym.
Sorry to interrupt. Is that brand still around? I get so many DMs from people saying, "Where can I get the old Redline shorts? Will you ask Matt?" So that's gone.
No, it's gone. It's gone. I
Okay.
shut
Will you
that down.
ever bring it back? Bring it back, the red line
don't-
HWPO line. People would buy that.
I don't know. You never know. I'll never say never. It was cool. It was just time. My cup runneth over, so something had to give. But that was a lot of fun. Gave me my start. But that's how I met him. I worked out North Shore CrossFit, one of the original affiliates in the world, in Danvers, Mass. And Allie Henry, a good friend of Matt's from the Olympic lifting program, was lifting at our gym training for world championships. And she was like, hey, I'm going to go see this kid I know compete at the ECC, the old ECC, even prior to the one that everybody saw on broadcast and whatever. And I was
What's
like,
the EEC? What is that?
ECC is the East Coast Championship. It was Ben's competition, Ben Bergeron's competition. And I was like, shit, I'll go see, I'll go with you. I like CrossFit. I'd like to compete. Yeah, when is it? So I went in, and she pointed to, like, I never thought to ask who she was going to see. And I had seen Matt at regionals that year, Northeast at Reebok, because he was I saw him that day do the overhead squat and sit in the bottom of the squat and look at Chuck Coswell and go, am I low enough? With 300 and something pounds overhead. And I'm like, who the hell is that kid? He's so cocky and amazing.
That precocious.
Yeah. So I went, and it was him, and she would introduce me, and I was like, a couple weeks later, I was like, I'm starting a clothing brand. He doesn't look like he has any sponsors because he looks like an unmade bed. Like, he's wearing a V-neck t-shirt and like ripped shorts and Air Max 90s. Like, can you give me his number? And so that's how it started. I just was like, hey, I'd love to sponsor you. And he's like, free clothes? Like, shit, let's do it. At the time, it was just like, we had no idea what we were doing. But he was getting offers otherwise. And I will say at that time, I was very direct with him. I'm like, you're going to win the CrossFit Games. Like, you're that good. Like, I believe that. And I think I know what I'm talking about. And he was like, you're crazy. I just want to win these local comps. And I was like, you're going to win the games. Like, this year.
You know what's so cool? When he tells a story, it's the exact same story.
Is it? Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because he probably says, yeah, this fucking crazy guy was telling me I was going to win the games. And it was like, that's how it happened. And like, my wife's a lawyer, and like, he was getting stuff sent at him. So we're like, hey, can we just literally, I'm what I am today on this side because I was like, hey, I just want to protect you. Like, I don't care what the business relationship is. Like, just don't sign anything stupid, And I got really passionate about formalizing that, and nobody was doing it at the time. And then the rest was history. Like, Matt was my biggest fan. Like, people would just ask him, who helps you? You got some great things going on, and he would refer people. Most of my clients came from him, like Pat Vellner, Brent Fikowski, like his competitors. He'd be like, yeah, you should talk to O'Keefe. And that's the stuff that people don't hear about him, because he's like this incredible competitor that would probably eat each of those guys' esophagus to win the games, right? Like, it's great. But
right.
Those guys would say, hey, how do you get help with business? And he'd say, yep, you should talk to O'Keefe. And he was okay with that, which is a interesting. setup, when you go to the CrossFit games and I'm with him in the back and it's like all my clients are there and it worked.
Yeah, he doesn't want to share his programming. He doesn't want to share all the details of his success, anything, and yet he's willing to share his friend and management. And there is a little bit of a disconnect there. That is, and I wonder if that is because he saw you as a friend, and so he was trying to get, he saw you more than just as his secret. You know what I mean? He with you, he transcended that. He's like, well, I wonder if it was more for you than for them. Do you know what I mean by that? He's like, this is a really good dude, and I shouldn't be selfish,
sure.
and I should share him. He deserves the same growth that I'm having.
I think it brought its challenges, but one of the things that worked really well with he and I was we always communicated perfectly, and if he was feeling tense around that, he would communicate it with me, and we just always were like, hey, before this gets to a point, like, I'm so proud of the career that we've had together and the relationship because of that. It's like we went through a lot of shit, like he had a lot of stress, right? Like stressful to do what he did every year, winning one more, and like what would that mean, and then like who was chasing him, and then me working with clients. We just communicated perfectly. I just have the playbook now for like for it's life. It's just like, hey, by the way, if you communicate and you're just up front and you're true, like things work out. It's pretty
When
easy, but
when he decided to go back to school, were you involved in that decision? Did he ask you if he thought he could do both?
yeah, I mean, I honestly, like, I think, I was involved in every one of his decisions in that, like, he made his decisions most of the time, but like he would, I would be a piece of, a question, hey, what do you think? I mean, my perspective was like, you need to finish school, of course, and I didn't, because the problem with school is like, if you look at today, him retiring, there's no chance he would have gone back because he's, done really well. And, he's, the motivation might not have been there and it might have been harder. So I thought it was the perfect choice at the time. I thought, I think doing it the way he did it was the right way to go. Like he, sort of he didn't do the full time thing at times. Like he would, periodically take like 2 classes instead of 5. That was one of the best choices he made in his career.
Do
It
you
made him really happy too.
do you remember I think it was the documentary when they were comparing him and Ben Smith maybe before the 2016 games, and he talks about chasing the feeling that it is the product of suffering. Do you remember that line?
I remember exact line, but I know what you're talking about.
So that was one of the most like profound things that I've ever I haven't spent obviously a lot of time with him that I've ever heard him say, and it like really really resonated with me. Was I don't love suffering. I love what the product of suffering produces. Was that an original thought of his? Because I was like, maybe I should ask him, but
No, a lot of it is, I think, well, first of all, I don't think any of us have an original thought. So, I mean, honestly, so I
I
mean,
agree. I agree.
there's
I
like,
agree.
there's
We're all
not like,
plagiarizers. We're all plagiarizing. I
but
agree.
he, I'm sure that was an accumulation of a lot of things that he'd kind of experienced and learned. So yeah, it was his thought and like, it was how he felt really. Like I don't think anybody taught him. It really was what, you know, made most sense to him was, I think he says something a lot where it's like, the pain in the gym on a daily basis is far better to endure than it would be, the years of mental anguish for me not knowing I did the work, right? Like he talks about that a lot too, which is like, I think a lot of people relate to. But he uses quotes of others, and he's very clear about that, like the Jerry Rice quote, like I'm willing to do today what my competitors won't, so tomorrow I can do what they can't. Like that's a big thing for him.
Jerry
But it's
Rice stole that from me.
yeah, I mean Jerry Rice didn't even figure that out. He just said it and put it on a sign and sold it and made $1 million. But the funny part is like those are just ways for him to organize thoughts of precisely how he lives his life, right? Which is cool because I don't think Jerry Rice taught him how to live that way. It's like, oh, that's how I live. There's a better way for me to say it. Yeah, he's got some cool shit like that.
Who is your second client?
Brooke Entz.
And what is did she come to you or did you go to her?
She did. We were at the Granite Games, funny enough, in 2014. And I didn't even know that I wanted to be like a manager or agent. I was doing it with Matt, for Matt.
How long had
It
you been doing it with Matt?
was through the games that year. So like it was like probably, a year at that point that I was
Okay.
like, I wouldn't even put myself as like the agent yet. I was like the friend that was helping him out. And she was there. We'd met her there, and she was kind of like asking him, "Hey, like, who takes care of your business?" She was like new. She was like coming up in the sport at the time. And after that weekend, she was like, "Hey, I want you to do for me what you do for Matt. Like, super cool. I watch your relationship. Like, he said you're great. Like, um, how can I get you to do that?" And I was like, "Shit, I've never even thought of like how I would get it. How I would formalize that with anyone. He and I just like fist bumped on this thing. So that was my second client.
And who was your third client?
Um, Cole Sager.
Really? Wow.
And
Yeah, I
what?
believe Cole. I believe it was Cole. Yeah, Cole Sager. I think
I ran into
And
Cole yesterday, man. What a great guy.
I love Cole. I've not known him a long time. Yeah, he's a special guy in my life. I love Cole.
what are the different challenges between managing women and men? And I'm open to there are none.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me,
I think it's
the
Camera
only
didn't.
the only thing
The
like I
camera
think.
didn't freeze people. That was Matt O'Keefe thinking deeply.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. You can no, yeah, it there isn't much difference other than maybe how I might feel from a protective perspective. Like I think it's I get a little defensive about how people treat my female clients at times, and so they're objectified. Well, by the way, like let's be clear, like sometimes um there are people that like they don't bring it on themselves, but like how they choose to market themselves sometimes, unfortunately welcomes some of that because I can be more defensive than I think they would be in that scenario. Um, but I mean, honestly, they're no different. Like, it's not like I think people on the outside would be like, "Oh, they must be more emotional." Like, I have some female clients that are as tough as any guy. It's like so. No, it's not a whole lot different. Other than that, it's just like I feel a very like I have like a very large, sense of protectiveness to them on, they're all dating now and like some of them are married, but like that's where it's like, and they're, they've done very well. They have like, they have some fame. It's like, what's true and not like, you got to think about that. It's going to be like hard for Brooke Wells to date someone because it's like, okay, like, do you like her Instagram? And she probably goes, well, and I know she goes through this. It's like, how do you meet someone the right way on that side? So, and then, my layer is like, I'm protective on that. So there's like the
Do you think you're
complexity.
protective? Is that because you have a daughter? You think that plays a huge role?
It, yeah, it does. And it's just not, honestly, no, it does and it doesn't. I'll tell you why, because I genuinely love everybody that I work with. And I'm
No, I mean
protective.
I mean the protectiveness. I mean, do you think that you have a more protective nature over the female athletes because you have a daughter, and that
I honestly, I don't. I'm very
okay,
protective of guys too, like in a unique way. I think that the unique struggle and or like challenge comes because they're females, right?
right?
But yeah, no, my perspective, my point was my perspective on that is like I genuinely, love gets tossed around a lot, but like I genuinely love the people I work with, and like finish a lot of phone calls with "I love you." It's like because I do, and so that's it for me. Like it's just it's what I was saying earlier. You're right. I have some perspective because my daughter is like I struggle with what might be going through her head and not being able to help her with it. I do the same with them. They're like my kids. I guess that's it. Like I do feel like they're my children.
Chris Rock did a stand up one time. I'm gonna botch it, but basically, I
Brian's
think he was.
Brian's back. Brian's back. You okay, buddy? Everything all right?
That usually
Did you
happens.
go pee?
Yeah,
Did you
yeah,
go
I
pee?
did.
Hey, that's the first time I think you've ever gone pee during a show. And I was drinking like 2 to 10 cups of coffee a day, Matt, and I used to have to pee in every show. And now I haven't peed like in 25
But
shows
this
straight.
is the
It's
earliest
awesome.
that I've ever done one of these in the time zone I've been in. Because usually I have a couple more hours to get it all out of the system. That's my excuse.
Chris Rock did a stand-up piece one time. He said something about like, hey, as soon as a girl turns 12, basically everything a guy is saying to her is, hey, you want some dick. Have you ever heard that stand-up routine?
I have.
Yeah. And
Unfortunately.
When I show my kids, even though I have no relationship other than a friend one with Sogo Snacks, it's just something I found on Amazon. I ended up buying it forever. It's a beef jerky stick that has no sugar in it, and after eating them for a year, I just wanted to talk to the owner of the company, and I called him, and he's just some farmer dude in Iowa, right, with 4 kids who wants healthy snacks for his kids, and I get to know him. And when I start making posts, he tells me, hey, we're selling more Sogo Snacks. Do you want me to give you a discount code? And I go, yeah, but I don't want any money. I want it to be just go to the savings of the people who buy it, right? And because I just want to be like what you did with Matt. I just want to support my ecosystem
Right.
of what I like. And I want to draw a parallel there that you have – we don't have to dwell on this, but we have – men are singularly focused, whether they know it or don't know it, that we're born and we want to procreate. It's like maybe singularly focused is not the right word, but it's 51% to 112% focused on it. And so if I show a beef stick and it gets someone to buy my beef stick or this guy's beef stick, just imagine what it does to men out there when you post a picture of yourself doing pull-ups in what is tantamount to your bra and panties. So it does frustrate me that there is I'm not saying that people need to be pigs to these women, but don't
Right.
think for a second like this is I detest the fact that people want to beat this character out of men of what they
Right.
because it's you can't beat it out of men. It's who we are. And if you do try to beat it out of men, you'll get some sort of even worse perversion of that. By that, I mean, if you have one of those balloons that you blow up and they make clowns with, if you squeeze one end, you get some sort of fucking perversion on the other end. And it's like, you have to draw. I'm not saying that.
We're getting dark in the tunnel right now. I like this.
I'm not saying that. People love jumping to conclusions to what I'm saying. I'm not saying that women shouldn't post that. I'm not saying that men should be vile. What I'm saying is just that there needs to be a healthy perspective on what's going on here. You post pictures, you're a 23-year-old woman, you spend 24 hours a day working on your body, and you post all these pictures of your body, and this is going to have a visceral, intellectual, emotional. I'm sure to go back to Brooke Wells, I'm sure Brooke Wells gets DMs where people sincerely tell her they love her. I will change my whole life for you. I want to marry you. Like, you're the perfect girl. I love the fact that you're religious and that you work hard and you care, and we could have a beautiful family. And I don't think that these are unrealistic DMs, but I also understand the mechanism. So I just wanted to just throw that out there as a commentary. And to smash these men for having that, I think is to smash all of mankind. Like, no, people, we're wired.
But that part is okay though. Like I think that, and let's be clear, like what I probably referenced earlier is like it doesn't, and you just said it, like it doesn't allow. It's not okay for you to be an asshole or a pig. It's like
right
because and that's my point, right? It's like I get that because that but like think about what you just described. Like that's really cool. Like, and I guarantee you that contributes to confidence and like, that's very warm for a Brooke Wells or a Katrin, whoever is like, hey, you're beautiful. I would love to take you on a date. Like, that's okay. Great, because that's cool. Like, and then I get that. What's funny is like, you just
and it's okay to like people for superficial reasons. It's totally okay. Now to marry them and have kids for superficial reasons, now you're going to fuck your whole life up.
Right.
But it's okay to like people for superficial reasons.
You just like somehow tangled an analogy in there with like a blow up clown and distortion. Like Mike, you've gone there. I don't even know how we went there, but that's amazing.
Go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say. Do you got something to add to that? Tell me.
No. I'm just I'm absorbing that.
The
I'm
analogies
okay.
today are on a different level for me, Sevan.
Yes, this is good. This is good. I feel like there's going to be some interesting clips that come out of this.
How many clients do you have, Matt?
Today there's like I believe it's like 17 individuals. We also have brands that we work with too, so there's more than but individual athlete clients like 17.
And is Loud and Live the same company that does the events and the sports marketing also does the management? It all falls under that umbrella.
Yeah, Loud and Live Sports.
And Matt, earlier you said that it was something important for your clients to be selective in their brands and not just sign things left and right. Do you guys have the same approach when selecting athletes?
1,000%. I don't. I think that we have an opportunity in one I believe we've earned, and I'm proud of, to work with a lot of people. I think we choose to work with people we're aligned with. And that there's an evolution there too. Like even current clients, like we us them us, like we hold each other accountable, and there's a lot of values involved in that. So it's if we don't line up, we don't work together anymore. Yeah, I don't need to or want to work with people that we're not aligned with. So, and that's okay too. It's not like a edgy thing. It's like we're not for everybody. It's probably the first thing I think we say, or I would say to somebody that's a potential client, is I'm not the right fit for everybody. You can ask any of them. That's like literally one of the first things I would say is like, and that's like that
Are there any
discovery phase.
like
Is
hard
that,
line?
let's find out if we're a fit.
Are there
What's
any
that?
like hard line no's where you're like, man, if you're involved in this, I can't do it.
I mean, of course, I'm sure you could probably outline some of them. Like we're not, but yeah, like if somebody, I mean, I don't know if you like what the example would be. Like I wouldn't work with Ricky Garrard if that's what you're asking. Like
Oh, just because of that, really?
zero chance.
Because I was thinking something much harsher, like if you'd been charged with pedophilia or some
Oh
shit.
yeah, yeah.
So
But I think that I hope everybody has that on their list.
right, but so is the reason why, and I hate to use him as an example, and I apologize, Ricky, because I really all the interactions I've had with you and your brother are amazing. But is the reason why not so much of you, but because you also have a responsibility to your other clients? Not because then if you have one person who's like willing to blur that line of using PEDs, that then people might fall on your other clients, or what's the reason why?
No, actually, that's a personal thing for me with Ricky. I just don't like how
Okay.
he handled the whole situation. Because I think you could, make mistakes in life. Because I've made plenty. Like I should be very understanding of that, right? But when you're popped and you're singing that you get it, and I've learned my lesson, and you're sending legal letters to guys like me that I should be making, allowing you to compete at Wadapalooza because I'm not a CrossFit competition. You haven't got it. So there was never
Okay.
any perspective gained there, and he still to this day doesn't get it. So like that to me is one situation that's a very good example is just like you didn't learn your lesson. So it's just like it's never stopped. So if you make a stupid choice and you say I made a stupid choice, and then you walk the talk, right? That's a different story. But
Does it bother you if I say I'm looking forward to him coming back to the competitive landscape?
I get that everybody's looking forward to it. I think you're gonna
Well, this is the reason why.
see what he was before at this point. Like I don't think he's a contender or ever will be. So, which is like I think what will be like the most eye-opening piece is, hey, like I think he's probably worked hard to get back and hopefully get back there. I don't even know that he'll qualify.
It's hard. A lot of good guys out there in Australia.
Yeah, I mean it's also he's 4 years older, and like
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Matt. Exactly. Taking time off the sport.
yeah,
I would. Don't tell Matt I said this, but I would really, and I think it's a good business perspective too. Where you at the beginning of the show, you were saying how he didn't want to sell his programming. He was staying true to who he is until he was done because he would never share it. Blah blah blah. But this is a genius marketing plan you have on the two of you put together, where he's actually going to come back next year and win it. and sell even more programming.
Um,
And he deserves to sell all the programming in the world, because as we all know who've talked with him, the guy is like thoughtful to a fault around his programming.
he really is.
And yeah.
It's put a lot
But
of work
I can't
into it.
wait. I can't wait. If I'm going to keep digging under his skin a little bit, plant the little, and it doesn't take much to dig under Matt's skin about competition. It's one thing the few shows where people thought it was over between us was when I was like saying stuff like, "Yeah, I don't think you can come back," and I was like, "Wow, this is working."
I don't
His
think,
response is me. It's like I've killed people for less, and
true. I just don't think, I don't think you'll ever see him compete again.
I don't either. But
You never
I
can
can
say
hear you.
never in certain scenarios. Who knows?
I
But
think he'd have,
It would be huge for the sport.
Ricky Garard's not going to trigger him to come back, because
No,
Ricky Garard was doped up and couldn't beat him. So it's like, all right, well, you're clean now apparently.
no, it's
So
going
how
to be
are you going
something
to
small. It's going to
Yeah.
be something small you say to him at the pool, like, Matt, you got fat. And then it's on.
Oh, no chance. He's going to be like, thank you.
Even though he I think he looks really good. He looks lean and mean right now. I shouldn't say lean and mean. He doesn't look, it's not like he looks skinny or anything, but he just looks like maybe it's not even, it's nothing more than he's just giving his body a break. I mean, he just looks healthier.
I hate to break it to everybody, but he's still really fit and doesn't really do a whole lot with that stuff anymore. I was there a couple weeks ago, and he wanted to test the rowing workout that he was going to put into HWPO, and he got off, and I was like, "How was that?" And he's like, "I hit all my numbers," and it was like, in some of that too, I'm sure, like, he's really got to refresh, and he's worked really hard. He has a huge base, he looks great, and part of it, he's really happy right now, like that. I don't know how to put a price tag or like quantify that physically, right? Like, what that means. But what, my experience with him is it means a lot. He's just, you know how, like, you probably have friends like this in general, but like, I'm really proud of it with him. But like, how are you doing? And they're like, I'm fucking great. And you're like, oh God, relax. That's him right now. I was like, yesterday, I'm like, how are you doing? He's like, my life is amazing, dude. I actually, like, now, because it's him, I take like, that makes me really happy, because it's like, I've been a part of that. I'm gonna keep working really hard with and for you, because I like that. That's really good. That's my reward. That's my currency. Like, that
You're seeing fruit on your tree.
gives me a
You're
lot of
like an
food.
Armenian. You're like an Armenian farmer. Like, we can't even pick the fruit on our tree because we're so proud of it. We just wait till the birds come and eat it. We're just so proud. Yeah, that's your fruit.
It is, honestly. It's like,
You're just gazing at your fruit.
I do think
love it.
this thing you said about how critical being content or happy or having a little stress in your life. I talk to members at the gym about this all the time. And I think that for just a lay person who's exercising, that they need to recognize that there's a lot of stress coming in from relationships, work, whatever, and that can affect what you do in the gym. But at the competitive level, and especially thinking when you're talking about people that aren't necessarily married but are trying to date or are out there and wondering if they should while also competing, those things can affect each other big time. I mean, I don't know the athletes the way you do, but I know of a couple instances in the past few years where an athlete's done great and then all of a sudden hasn't done that great. And the rumors I've been hearing is, well, they had a personal falling out in their life, whether it was with a family member or a significant other, something like that, and it affects their competitive performance. Is that something
Why
you?
wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it though? Like, right? Like, think about what we do in life. Like, it's like, our analogy would be like, oh, you were off today. Like, you didn't deliver on your pitch if you're a sales guy or whatever. It's the same for them. Now it has a bigger effect. I've seen a ton of it. I could go back to, like, results that you guys have all seen, and like, even the pundits probably analyzed at some point. You being a pundit, Brian. No, I'm kidding. But no, but seriously, like, you would be like, look at a result and be like, wow, like, they're slipping. It would be like, well, you didn't know X, Y, and Z, right? And it's like, but I mean, it's life, but like, that's 100%. Because it's the peak physical sport. This is what we're going back to, like, hardest, right? like the precision on the physical side in this sport. Think about what factor stress or any factor would play. Like anxiety, stress, whatever it is, like it's a monumental factor in this business. A ton on the competitive
Mostly
side.
a lot of boyfriend girlfriend. When you say XYZ, boyfriend
Yeah,
girlfriend,
I mean that stuff's that
dog dies.
huge effect. Relationships, like I could see it in Matt and Sammy have a bad day with his and how that would relate to what his training
She
results.
left an eggshell in his omelet or something, and he just fucking
Uh,
snaps on her.
yeah. I'm looking
And
at
hey,
it.
what a remarkable thing too. You got him and Tia training together that last year, the last 2 years, but then both of them paving the way also to have these really, I mean, what appears to be authentic, super crazy tight relationships with Sammy and Shane. Tia with Shane and Sammy with Matt, and that always fascinated me because that either works or it doesn't work. There's no middle
Right.
ground, right?
It's part of the formula though. Like if Matt, greatest ever, Tia, greatest ever, incredible support system, you know, partners that get it, it's an all-in approach, right? It's just any sport, not any job. Like I guess people work to just work, but like the peak.
I think you had it. Any job, you wouldn't be where you're at if it wasn't for your wife supporting you, right?
I'd agree. I mean, I couldn't disagree. Yeah, that's 100%. But it's to be the greatest. Um, there's all these like, man, I'm like I overanalyze this shit. I'm just such a geek on sport too in general. So it's just like every accomplishment's harder, right? Like winning one, then two, then three, then four, then five, right? And it's like the micro factors just become greater and greater and greater. And it's just like, what's the limit? Where is the person's limit? Because there's always going to be the sort of chink in the armor at some point, right? That doesn't allow you to be 6 or 7 or 8 time champion, right? It was like, Matt's moment in 2019, it was like, okay, like nobody thought he would, had ever been tested. Well, you saw he's the most money player in the history of the sport too, because he was backwards against the wall for 3 days and he delivered, right? So it was just, it's like, but that factor is like unsurmountable in other people's game, because they don't have that, you know? So everybody has that. It's like, why, wow, this person looks like the most perfect physical makeup. They're gymnasts and they can lift heavy weight. And it's like, yeah, but like if your life isn't in line, your partner doesn't work, like all that other shit, it's not going to happen. I promise you. Like there's no, nobody's doing this with one arm tied behind their back.
I gotta go
Mm.
check now and see who's got a better record on Sundays at the games, Rich or Matt.
I bet it's Matt.
I know
Maybe
Rich.
I'm blind. Maybe I'm being blind on that, but like, I'll tell you what, like nobody like, I don't know. I guess Rich had his back against the wall, but like that year, 2019, you've never seen a performance like that in this sport because he, first of all, was as dominant as he's ever been. We had this like crazy scoring system and shit was all over the place. And I've never witnessed focus like that because it was like, some shit that was coming at him was just uncontrollable and some of it wasn't even fair, and it was like, okay, cool. Just gonna go win every fucking event the rest of this weekend. Okay, cool. And he did, except the swim. Like, that every other event he was just like, I'm gonna put the hammer down and take care of business. It was awesome.
In 2009, there was an event where they sprinted up the hill at the ranch,
Yeah.
and they got to the top, and Rob Orlando's at the top, and I said to him, "Is this event fair? Do you think this is a fair event?" And he said, "Nothing is fair in CrossFit. That's the first thing. Nothing is fair."
It's good.
And I was like, "What a fucking beast! What a great
I
answer!
love Rob. He's
Isn't he great?"
he's become a good friend
Dude,
for
Rob's a
all
man.
of us.
I worked with him a couple years ago at Wadapalooza on the WZA Strong, which is, by the way,
Oh,
such a
cool.
cool event. I hope that we're able to bring that one back.
We're got some cool stuff coming with Wadapalooza this year. You
Is
you
Tr-
know what's that?
Go ahead. Sorry, Matt. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna be adding some disciplines. You know, I want to have 2,000 people weightlift, power. I want to have 2,000 people powerlift. I want to have, you know, world's strongest man there. Or we're talking to them about that. Hopefully that works out. Like
How about a boxing match?
thought about it, honestly. Because you know, we talked to IMG about it a little bit, and it's not. Maybe not, maybe the year after. I actually want to bring like a MMA. I'm a huge MMA fan.
Oh, me too.
I just think it's like I went with Matt to the fight in Houston. I mean, I obviously got to do it a little differently than most would going, which was like I'm so grateful for. We sat like literally in the ring, but it's to me,
it's not worth going if you're not. It's really not worth going if you're not.
I mean, I love watching it on TV too, right? Because it's such an art form. Like it's like, you know, people, you know, from a lot of people will be like, oh, it's like, I mean, my wife is, I'm like, that's disgusting, and it's like you don't even get it. Like
it is disgusting. It is disgusting.
Not. It's like
it's a guilty pleasure of mine. It is disgusting.
I don't know, man. What it takes to be the best at that, I can start to relate it to like what Matt and Tia and those guys and Katra and those guys that have won in the past. Like to me, that piece is like, man, it's such a cool sport. There's so many factors in that. So the fight we went to was a title fight with Chandler and a Brazilian guy. I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, Oliveira. Yes.
And Oliveira got his face kicked in the first round. Like it was over. The belt, he was literally saved by the belt. And we're like on the edge of our seat. I love this kid, Chandler. He's also a CrossFitter. So like I want to, you know, see him succeed. But he like one wrong move and it was over. And it was like we were just literally with our head in our hands, like, what just happened? Like, that's crazy. And that's what I love about that sport is like there's no accumulation generally. It's like you got to be perfect to win.
Perfect. Just to touch on that fight real quick, I wanted Chandler to win, but Oliveira's celebration made me so happy for him. His appreciation and that celebration. What was that like being there? Was that just emotional? I mean, it was emotional.
I'm getting chills right now because I'm like remembering it. And that whole thrill of victory thing, like I don't know. I feel like I'm more attracted to that than most because, you know, and I've been able to really experience some cool shit like that. You also know, like you can relate to the work that went into that. That's what you're seeing there. You know, another like, Rose Thug, I don't know. Did you watch her reaction?
She's my favorite. She's amazing. She's my when she was that in the same card when she fought the lady from China?
that was the UFC before that. But
that
when
fight
she
was
won,
amazing.
when she won,
yes.
I was like, I was in tears watching that. I was like, dude, that is so cool because you know what's gone into that. It's like, man, that's like she's worked her whole life to get to that point, and now she's having the belt put around her, and she's like, you know. Can't even be controlled. It was the first Mexican to win last week.
Moreno.
Amazing. That reaction was just like, I was like, man, that is so friggin' cool. Like he, you know, go on your world tour, buddy, and just like tell everybody you're the champ. Like he just like was just overwhelmed with joy when he won. It's just like, and every one of them were like, man, I've worked so damn hard. I heard somebody say this the other day that I thought was like one of the coolest sports quotes I've ever heard. So, golf, Sevan, sorry, you're gonna have to get through this.
I'm gonna go take a pee while you guys talk about golf.
But he, it was this kid. He lost his mom when he was young. You know, on and off the tour, and as a British golfer, he just recently won a tour event. But he's been like all over the place. I don't even know what this kid's name is, but like, man, he had like a tile company as a sponsor on his shirt. Like this kid hasn't made it. And he was like, they interviewed him after he won the European Tour event, and they're like, "Who is this for? You know, your mom?" And he goes, "No, this is for me." And they're like, And he's like, you know, a ton of people have helped me get here. I want to recognize all of them, but this is for me. I hit all those balls. I did all that work. And when I heard that, I was like, you know, Matt had been like that a bit in his career, and like I always was like, yeah, it is. Of course it is. You did all that work.
Yeah.
You don't like, and some people will hear stuff like that in interviews and they'll be like, that's selfish. You shitting me? Like, go watch the work, you know?
Yeah, but people be critical of anything. When Jordan Spieth talks about we did it, there's the same people are going to say, no, man, they weren't there hitting the balls with you. You were hitting the balls.
I hear that from Jordan Spieth, and I'm like, nah, you did that. That's always my reaction to that. And
I like it.
I'm on the side of the team side, you know. And Matt
Sure.
does some plenty of we stuff, but I've always said it to him too. Like, don't mince words. You've done the work. Like, you be very proud of that, and you're not hurting my feelings at all by saying that.
Is there a specific strategy behind 4 letters in a brand? HWPO, PRVN, ESPN.
No, not that I know of. I mean, isn't it HW?
GFY.
That's
Oh no,
three.
that's only 3.
That's three.
That's
For
not
them.
3.
HWPO is, you know what's fascinating to me is that nobody had ever grabbed that. And what, like, I don't know. I mean, it's evolved with Matt, but it's a pretty cool brand. Um, and
Sounds like something Mayweather would say.
yeah. You don't even have the hat on today.
Who, me? I know. I'm so proud of my haircut. Everywhere I go, people are like, "Dude, you look 30 years younger." Matt, I know you're going to run away. Let me ask you this real quick before you go.
What's up?
Ready?
Yep.
Two questions about your management. One, of those 17, do you manage all of them? And how would you possibly do like when I was at CrossFit? If anytime I have 3 kids and a wife, that's 4 direct reports. That is a lot. And when I was at CrossFit, I had a huge staff, and I had 4 to 6 direct reports, and I was get overwhelmed. It was a whole, from the second I woke up to the minute I went to bed, I was dealing with direct reports. How do you do 17? And then the second question is who are you courting now? Because we've had Jason Hopper on the show twice. And the first show I was like, dude, you got to talk to O'Keefe. And the second show he's like, yo, I'm going West Coast Classic to see O'Keefe. I'm like, damn, O'Keefe ain't messing around.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, I on the front side, no, I have really an amazing team. It would be impossible to do all that work, and I have a lot of other things going on. I have probably like 20 people on my team anyway, on this Loud Knife Sports side. So it's Aaron, you can come over and get those keys. And so no, I don't. It's a village approach with that, and you know, there's a lot that goes into that. So no, I have more involvement with like I know everything that's going on, and like I certainly like make sure that I'm very involved in like how decisions are made, which I get updated on in terms of like, you know, when deals are being signed, and you know how we approach those things with the brands or whatnot. But no, I have really good people
But
there
all
as well.
17 athletes can text you at a moment's notice. Like,
Anytime,
you're going to get off the phone with us right now, and you're going to have 20 texts. They all have access to you.
100%. Anybody that we work with, and that doesn't matter. Like, that's either people that work on my team. Like, we have 200 volunteers here. Like, that's one of the first things I would address the volunteer corps with. Like, I want to know how I can make your weekend better. Like, that's genuine. So, yeah, I want people to have access to me on that. So, yeah, clients, yeah, easy. They all, and I hear from a lot of them a lot, you know, and I love it. You know, it's kind of always been, not kind of, it has always been my why. Like, that's been my, you know, start and foundation, you know, and so, you know, I want to hear from them. But yeah, and then yeah, I've talked to, you know, Jason quite a bit, and I'm excited we're going to work with him. He's a really cool kid. You know, I hate doing that kid, but like he is, he's a young guy, and he's I love his drive and determination, and you know, obviously his physical attributes are, you know, hard to ignore. I'm interested to get to know him more. I'll meet him for the first time here. I didn't even meet him at the MAC. You know, I was there in a very unique, strange role for myself. You know, I wasn't really in. It's the first time I was like kind of at a competition at that level where I just like I took a really big back seat there and just kind of watched. And you know, Tia and Brooke were competing, but like I don't have like a day-to-day role in competition with them. You know, so kind of my first season now without having a coaching role. Like I wasn't Matt's coach. I always say I was his caddy, but he it's been interesting. So anyway, but I was at the MAC and didn't get to meet him because I wasn't going to bother him. But excited to meet him. Him and his wife are coming out. There's a lot of people coming out here. This is going to be a really. We sold a ton of tickets. It's going to be a really fun weekend. There's
Congratulations! I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome.
I'm most happy for the athletes, honestly. Like Granite Games was great, by the way, and our team did an unbelievable job with that event. It couldn't have looked better on TV. It's hot as hell, so like there were still some people there, but like the atmosphere, from an athlete perspective, it wasn't like the total comeback. This, I think, is going to be that moment. I think a lot of people will get to see through the broadcast and then physically hear and be like, "We're back! Like we are back!" Because there's a lot of people coming, and there's a lot of people from industry coming. I'm psyched. It's a great field. The workouts are badass. I mean, we're just copying everything Dave ever wrote.
Oh, please tell Dylan I said hi too.
He's really, yeah. Oh, I will actually.
Amazing guy. Always loved running into him. Always loved running into him, and I can't believe all the success he's having now. What a great dude. I used to work the games with him, and he's a great dude.
He is. He's intentionally unknown from his perspective. He's one of the most talented people that is in this space. I'm a recipient of a lot of credit that is due to his hard work and how bright he is, and I'm really fortunate, and I'm very grateful that he's chosen to be a part of anything I've done. And known him a long time. I knew him before he was on this side, but man, I'm proud. Like he's an awesome guy. And he's
who
really
else?
good at what he does.
Give us one more person before you go besides Jason Hopper who you're courting. Anyone else that we could get excited about? I almost want to. I want to hear it because that means I think you think that they're going to be good in the future, and then I'll just quickly. Grab them and put them on the
I see where this
podcast.
is going. Did Brian ask you to ask this question?
No, Brian already knows
Brian-
who's going to win the games for the next 10 years. I could just ask Brian, but I want to get another professional opinion. Who is there anyone else that you'd be willing to share that you're looking at that you're courting?
No, nobody.
Okay,
Honestly, like I would say this, like, and I try to say this, like, we don't like really court people. I feel like people know, who we are and what we do, and we'll reach out to people and just say, hey, like, you're gonna obviously hire someone. We would love the opportunity to discuss it with you. But Jason's the same. It's like, hey, we might not be a fit for you. Like, you have to make that decision, but I'll tell you about us and what we've done, which I think is, impressive and who we worked with. But I don't court people, I mean, if people want to work with us, great. If they don't, that's cool too. Like, I will help anybody in this space on the athlete side that needs help, whether we work with them or not, to be successful. It's important. I want those kids to get every ounce that they deserve and have success and something to show for this.
Did you court your wife?
Of course not. She courted me. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long did that take?
A long time. Yeah. That was Fat Matt.
I just didn't want you to think courting has any negative connotations. I courted my wife for 5 years.
No. I do. I don't want that to come across arrogantly, by the way. Because I'll, if that was a part of the process, great. I just, I think we just tell, like, my point I'm trying to make is, like, we try to tell people what we do and how we do it. And, we think we're really good at what we do, and we want to be a fit, but, like, people don't want to work with us. It's fine. I get it. And not everybody does,
There's people who are going to make mistakes in life. What can I say?
That's how I feel, but I'm also happy.
I want to give you an endorsement, but I think it would hurt you more than help you, so. So I won't. Brian, is there anything you want to say to Mr. O'Keefe?
Thank you very much, dude. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm proud of that. Most proud. It's kind of like what everything else has been able to. It's allowed for my life to be the way it is. Not a whole lot of people would have been trusting the drunk Matt O'Keefe. So.
Matt, thank you so much. I know this was pretty last minute. I know today is a crazy day for you. Good luck this weekend at the West Coast Classic. I will be glued to my TV set. Brian will be there on the field.
Thank you.
And,
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's always great to talk to you guys. This was fun. This was a good way to start my day. Well, I started my day with a little run outside, so we tested the heat, and we're gonna be okay. Everybody's gonna be okay with the heat, and we're gonna go really early. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. And Brian and I are gonna hit a workout later today, so we'll be thinking of you, Sevan.
I'm going to go, as soon as I get off the phone, I'm running straight to the skate park to watch my kids skate.
Oh, God. Well, have a blast. That's more important than this.